G'day guys, it's Mike from Battlefield Accessories here, and today's video is all about our Deluxe Halo kit. So it's a really fantastic piece of kit. It's probably 18 months in development from the standard Halo up to this one, and I'll quickly rip you through a few features. So to start with, it's got a additional 15cm extension in the middle here that can actually come out, so it can go to a standard width Halo or it can go here. Comes with 2 LED strips standard. It also comes with the support boxes on the side, so you have your standard Halo here, right, with the support boxes, and the support boxes, you can see, feature an area where you can have sort of figures and bits and pieces. Got 2 drawers either side for things you want to have on hand, and then it's also got these paint racks here on the side which give you basically 4 brush spots on either side. Right, brushes at about a 5-degree downslope, so as keeping all of the moisture away from this part of the brush and out towards the nibs, which I've been told is a really good thing. Of course, you don't need to use the extension boxes, you basically lift the thing up and these boxes can be removed. Right, and you'll see it's got a little lip across the top to actually keep the whole thing secure. Right, deconstruction and reconstruction of this as a standard Halo only takes a couple of minutes, which you'll see if you keep watching the video. So it's available on the web store as a kit. If you hang around and keep watching, you'll see me build one and then do some bits and pieces in terms of securing it, putting the light in, and changing the size of the Halo. So I hope you enjoy. See ya. I've got the Deluxe Halo here. I've inserted the long extension, right? And so here's the Halo. It's hard to show you this whole thing without having super wide lens. So I've turned the whole thing upside down because I'm now going to thread in my 2 LED strips. Now, because you have a Deluxe Halo, you have 2 LED strips. Now, there is a compromise here because you only get the LED strips are 1 meter long, and you've added an extra 15cm, so you're going to lose some of the light from the side. Not too much of it, but a little. So what you need to firstly do is work out which side you want your USB power running to, right, and whack the LED, or the USB port out through the gap which is provided on that side. Now I'm now going to do this as a rough kind of by eye estimation of how long these LED strips go. So all I'm basically doing is just tuck them in the corner. I've got it down about 7cm at the side. Going to run it up over here, and you can see I've come to about 3/4 of the way. So I'm pretty happy with that as a positioning. Right, so I'm then going to go to the center. Got a bunch of holes cut through. I'm going to use one of these little pegs. Basically pick a spot, slide a peg through from one side to the corresponding hole on the other side. I'm just going to come along, and basically I'm doing that every so often. The idea is, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to miss the actual LEDs, and if you look at your the actual Halo, you'll see that we've cut holes at what appears to be random locations. They're not actually random. What we've tried to do is give you a little bit of flex, so as these spots where they'll go in. So if you've missed it by 1/2 mil, it actually doesn't matter because there's an extra hole 1/2 mil long. Now you could do sorts of things like you could unbalance the LED. So run one of them so as it starts right up here, and the other one runs all the way through to here. So you could have it so as you're getting half light on those last 2 bottoms, like, sorry you can't see from here, so you're getting half light. For me, I'm just going to run them 2 so I get even light the whole way around. The only thing I find that's pretty important when you're putting these ones in is making sure the corner's reasonably tight, because if it's not tightly put in the corner, and I don't mean that by folded, but I mean so as it's not hanging down, you'll get a lot of glare out of that area, and that's probably not what you're after. So if you decide that you want to change from your extension to your long extension to your standard halo, you'll have to rethread your lights, and that's going to take you all of about 5 or 6 minutes to do. And so it's not a huge job. I suppose it's not the sort of job you want to be doing, you know, 3 times a painting session, but at the same time it's not a massive job either. Breaking myself out a couple of extra pegs. Now the other trick too is don't glue these pegs in. I've said that on all the construction videos. I haven't had anybody come to me and say, oh, can I have some replacement pegs? But if you glue them in, then your LED light strips are there forever. Now, I don't know that's a huge problem, because I haven't had reports of people going, oh, my LED strips are dead. Right, and I've been using mine for almost 2 years now, and they still seem to be going fine, so I'm not sure it's a huge problem, but anyway. Alright, just put one more in here. Right, and so there you have all the LEDs in place. Come along, plug them in, right, and suddenly I've got plenty of light coming up. I have my 2 sides of my halo. I'm now going to build it as a standard. So I've got, sorry to show you, 2 small grooves here. And then on the piece that's going in, I've got a piece that stands out either side. And so looking at the internal insert, so it's locked inside the top deck. And the second one on top of that. Push the 2 pieces together, and so now you have a standard width halo. I'm going to come along with my pegs. Top here, just lock it into place. And on the other side. Now, if you're finding it difficult to get it to go together, slight movement in and out will actually line up the holes correctly for you. Again, you should see the outtakes video on me trying to do that before I work that out. Okay, and there you have your standard halo. From my extension piece. So, grab my extension bit. Now, the small holes facing down. See, this thing is massive, so I need extra bench space. So I push those together, and then again grab my teeth, or my pegs, sorry. Lock them in. Okay, and you can see that's really quite strong too. It's got a little bit of flex. I wouldn't want you to put anything too heavy on the top of that, right? But in terms of giving you that extra internal workspace down in here, it's doing exactly what has been asked. Okay, so construction for the Deluxe Halo. In the kit there's a whole bunch of sprues, I think 18 in total, and whilst the kit itself is not particularly complex to put together, you are going to generate a lot of spare parts. So I'm going to suggest that you do this in 2 parts. So you've got a bunch of sprues which have got codes on them, if I can find it here, which DH for Deluxe Halo, 16 of 18, and then it's got SB on it. So that SB, anything with an SB code is for the support boxes. So there's a stack of sprues like that. The other dead giveaway is the support boxes sprues are significantly smaller than the Halo sprues. So put your Halo sprues, grab them out, put your support boxes sprues aside. Now the only thing that I am going to say though is, you see this one's straight out of the cutter. There is one thing that you do need out of these sprues, right, and which is the foot. Now it's the Eureka Miniatures coated one. Okay, so grab that out, put the rest of your support boxes sprues aside, and I'm actually going to not do the video for that because the support boxes for the Deluxe Halo are the same as the standard one. So if you look at the YouTube video for that, if I get really clever, I will put a link here now that you can click it. So the support boxes, you just need to follow the steps in that video. Okay, so in terms of this the Deluxe Halo, right, there's a series of pieces obviously, right, and what we're going to do is we're going to basically break these out and put them into piles. So in most cases you've got between 2 and 4 copies of the same piece. So for example this piece here, top support, right, you'll see on that you've got a cut side and a non-cut side. So this is the side which faces up, so you get a little bit of smoke burning and stuff on that. Generally speaking, the gaps on this side are just a touch wider than the gaps on this side. You're talking, you know, maybe 0.05 of a mil, but it does make it a little bit easier when you're putting things together. So depending on what you like, so some people like that burnt outside, some people like it a bit cleaner, but in terms of ease of putting together, if this burnt side is facing in, that will actually make a bit of a difference. So what you'll find with these is you've got 4 of these, right, that are 2 of them are mirror images of each other. And so my suggestion is going to be is you go through and find all of those, let's call them pistol shaped pieces, shall we? So there's 2. So if I look at my pistol shaped pieces, there they are. Now if I want to have the burnt side facing in, I'm going to have to turn that one over. So I've now got clean side out on both sides. Right, so those pieces, if you look at the shape, are going to form the top of your Halo. Now one thing to watch out for, and this is where a modelling tool is useful. Old screwdriver is good, paintbrush, I've just got an old dental tool that I picked up somewhere a million years ago. As you're working, just make sure that all of the little square holes and any of the gaps have all been punched out, because sometimes they just drop straight out on the cutter, other times they don't. Often just a firm tap will knock them out, but I just think it doesn't hurt just to go through and make sure they've all dropped all the way through. Okay, so there's my tops. The next thing I'm going to go for is the legs. I'm just finding the sprues. The legs sit on the same sprues. They look like this. Okay, now it's a bit counterintuitive. This slopey side is the bottom, right? So this flat side here is going to join on to the side here. Okay, and again there's 4 of those, so go through and find them. Okay, and again I'm going to apply the same logic. So I've got bits of timber everywhere. If I'm having a look over here and I move this up the top, so I want to have my burnt side facing in, and it's running joined up square here, right, and running down at an angle. So there's my 2 burnt sides in on that side, and then flip over for my 2 burnt sides on the other, and then following the same logic that I was talking about before, just go through and just punch out any of these that haven't been done. Just much easier to punch them out now where they're really obvious than when you're halfway through constructing, you've got something covered in glue and then realise it won't connect because there's a tag still in place. Okay, so I've got the 2 sides. I'm now going to put them aside for a second while I punch out the other supports. So next one is this long piece here. Now this is the support for the bottle nibs. Okay, so if you think about a Vallejo bottle, it's going to sit in, there's a ring supporting here, and then the rest of it's, the nib's going to sit inside that piece there. I'll show you like that. Okay, so there's two of those. Now the facing on this one probably doesn't matter at all, because this is going to be internal inside the actual halo, so you're not going to see it, so you can decide however it goes. There is definitely an upside and a downside, and you'll see when we put that in a moment. Okay, so two of those, put them over to the side here. Right, and then I've got a series of straight bits like this. Now these bits are actually broken in half, and the main reason for that is to allow us to ship it for at a reasonable rate, because if the pieces get too long, then the size of the shipping container gets big, and therefore it costs a lot to ship. Now, in terms of these, I'm just going to give you a little trick here. This one here, it's got these 3 holes in it, and these two here with 3 holes in it, they're for the top deck, and we're not going to use them for the moment. Okay, so when you're looking at these, you don't want the ones with these 3 little holes in them. Okay, there's 4 of those, right, and 2 of these. So I do want this one here. The other thing that's dropped out here is these 2 little short pieces. Right, now these little short ones are for the paintbrush holders, which I'll talk to you about a little bit later. Okay, so again, taking this sprue here, there's those 2 that I'm not interested in the top one, so I just want this side piece here. Right, and back to this one. And that should be everything. So when I pile these pieces up, there should be doubles of everything. Right, and there I have it. Okay, so in terms of arrangement, so these 2 pieces here, the ones without holes in them, are the piece which goes on the inside of the halo. So the LED strip will run up the inside of that. And in terms of where the break is, they join up where there's 2 of these little side bits together. So you'll see there's 3 at the top, then there's a gap. Well, in fact, it's 3 at the bottom, then at the other end there's a gap. That's the correct way. If you had it something like this, right, you'll find that it won't actually go in. So that's how it goes together. Right, and then for the external paint support, right, again, it's pretty obvious. There's a big gap or a big blank section at the top, 3 at the bottom. Okay, you'll see how that goes together now. So I'm going to put these pieces over here, and I'm going to grab a pair of halo legs. So I said that I want to work with the cut side facing up, because those gaps are a little bit wider. If I think about how that stands like this being my table here, I've got paint racks here, so the actual open ones like this. Then I've got my nib support in the next line, and then finally I've got my blank to support the halo, and those little holes here are for allowing the guides that keep the halo upright. Okay, so of course, doing the right thing here, I'm going to do a dry fit first. So take the short piece of the external and slot it in, then the long piece, now just careful, if you put too much downward pressure on the top on there, right, you'll snap these, so make sure you're pushing firmly but not too firmly. Okay, then the internal, now you'll see that this one starts with a pair, so I'm just going to drop that in now. The idea is that these little pointy parts are pointing up. And get that nicely seated in. And then finally for the edge, this bit here, right, provides some cover at the top, right, so these 3 on the longer piece go in at the bottom, and then so if I look at it here, so there's a single tooth left, right, and that single tooth corresponds to that one. Okay, so you can see that I've got my internal structure. Now I come along with the other part, so the outside or outer skin of the side, and I'm just basically going to push this into place. So it works really well if you're working down on top. You've just got to make sure that these internal pieces are lined up. I've got this one, it's not wanting to play. Okay, there it is. Now, so that's dry fitted. I've dry fitted that, and I would suggest that you do a dry fit on yours. Just make sure that it's going together nicely. Clip all those together. Then, what I would do is I would then pull it apart, which is pretty straightforward. Now that I know where everything goes, grab my PVA glue, I'm just running a bead of glue straight down where those lines are going to go. So I'm basically linking all of the holes together in a straight line. Okay, and then the pieces which I dry fitted, just going to drop them all back in now. Now, quick trick, if you want to clean this up before you put the lid on it, is now the time to clean it up. I'm quite happy with that. I'm just going to go along and again run my bead of glue. I don't particularly feel that it needs a clean up because most of these areas are going to be internal inside the halo, so you're not even going to see them. Yeah, I'll show you this just so as you can see it. As I'm putting this piece together, this one here is bowing out a little bit. It's probably hard to see. It's quite difficult to even see here, right? And so what I'm going to do is just get a little tool in here just to pull it out a little bit to make sure the holes are lining up. Right, and there we have it. Now, this is where some masking tape is really handy. What I'm going to do is just going to pick this up and check that that's all nice and firmly seated in, which it is. And then we're going to grab a bit of masking tape and give the whole thing a wrap. Now if you had some G clamps, you could use those. I like masking tape because I can keep working. Okay, so there you go, I've masked that up, so it's just holding it all together. You know, if I was getting really desperate on this, I might put a second line around the bottom there, but that's probably enough. Okay, so that's the leg. So we're now going to do that again for the other side. Now again, you're going to dry fit this, glue it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause, build the second one, and then come back. Okay, so I've built my second leg. One of the things I'm just going to do is just showing you. You see I've got all these beads of glue that have popped out. Just going to run my brush up and down those just to get rid of them. Now, if you really don't like that glue effect, you can grab a cloth and give that a wipe over. Really, that outer skin's the only area that really matters. Well, I can do the internal one if you want to. Another thing you want to watch is make sure you keep these glue holes, these little holes free of glue, so I'm actually going to give that a proper one. Better do the same to the one that we finished just before. So I was a bit more conservative on the glue on the one I did on camera. The one I did off camera, I just went the hack on it. Okay, so there it is. Okay, bit of tape. Right, there we go. Okay, so I've now got my two sides. They're going to basically sit like this with my pistol shape pieces sitting in the top. So let's move on to the pistol shape. So I put this one aside. Okay, so this is going to lock in, and so basically the length of these is holding the whole thing rigid, so that's going to lock in there. I'm going to put my top deck in, put a second piece on top, and that will form one half of the halo, and then we'll have the same for the other side. So to do the top, we're going to need a couple of additional pieces. So the bits we're going to need are these long pieces with the 3 holes in them. Okay. Now we're after the single-ended one, not the double-ended one. The double-ended one you'll see later on. So I need a pair of these for each side. So there's 2 of them. Now the sprues for these are actually the same. So you'll see there's a long piece there with the double header. That's the one I don't want. These 2 I do. Okay, so 2 of these for each side, put those 2 aside for the moment. Now, the principle here on the pistol shaped pieces at the top is that this will sit, these 2 pieces will sit in here. So you'll see you've got a 3mm gap in there, which a linking piece will fit in, and then these 3 holes sitting on top will allow me to drop a lock in to hold the whole thing together. So this is where the Deluxe is different from the Standard, that I can put different insert lengths in here to give myself additional space inside the halo. So those three little holes must line up together. So if I look at it, so the 3 holes are going towards the barrel part of the pistol. Now you could do a dry fit on this with these side bits. Again, I'm not going to bother with that. I'm just going to do it live on camera for you. Okay, so I'm just basically going to, same principle of glue before. Going to run all the way to the top, and then I'm going to run glue all the way along the middle here. I'm going to give you a little tip on this in just a second. There is going to be an insert piece which runs in here, right in that last little bit, and it actually runs, if I show you, it runs in about that much. Okay, so I think you want to be a bit careful with how much excess glue you have in this area here, because it's going to be reasonably reasonably tight fit for the inset piece, so I'm just going to come along here and just wipe out a bit of that glue. Think about all the teeth all the way along, there's plenty holding the thing together. If I want glue, I might just stick it down in those teeth marks there instead. Okay, so working on a flat surface, so I'm going to put my side on first and come along and this is great because you can get a view straight on top of it. So there you go, that's locked in. And then lock in my two deck pieces. There they are. Okay, come along with the second half of my pistol. Again, check that I've got it right. Yes, that's the side I want, therefore I'm going to glue the other side. Being careful of these ones, what I'm actually going to do this time. I'll show you how you should do it. One thing I should say that it might be bleedingly obvious, but we don't rehearse these videos, we just basically make them. And so sometimes partway through production it's like, oh, I should tell you to do this. So right, there it is. Now, in terms of glue, I'll put a little bit of glue on the back sides. Oops, so you can see it. The back sides of those three tabs here. And then a tiny bit of glue. What I'm trying to do is avoid too much glue seepage into the main part. Right, again, working on a flat surface again. Have I said that enough times yet? Come along and just squeeze these bits in. I'm not sure if you saw that bit in the vid there. I just had to push the internal section backwards a little bit. There's a bit of flex in there, right? And by pushing it back, I've now got it all lined up exactly the way I want it. Again, rather than use my finger, I use my cloth that I've provided for myself. Again, give it a bit of a clean up. Right, and so there you can see I've got one half of a halo. I've got a gap here which my piece can slide in and out of nicely. Very good. Okay, final bit I'm going to do is grab some masking tape and just make sure this is nice and firm while it dries. If I do the nose, make sure I do this part here. And in actual fact, you'll see there's a join there. I'm going to tape right around the join. The reason why I'm doing that bit as well is that if you put pressure on this bit here, you could cause these seams over here to pop, and so you just need to make sure the whole thing's been locked together. Once the glue's dried, it's not going to be a problem at all. Okay, so there we have that side, and what we might do is we might put the foot on as well, let that dry. Okay, so there's a foot. You'll see that it's got a Battlefield Accessories logo. The other one's got a Eureka Miniatures logo on it. There, we work together with those guys. So what you're looking to do here is, again, glue in between the bits. Going to have it so the logo's facing forward. So I've done that. Give it a bit of a brush around. And then I'm going to put the whole thing aside to dry. Okay, going to quickly do the other side. So again, I'm going to pause rather than you watch me do that. In actual fact, I've come back. I've decided not to pause for a moment. I might just fast run this in high speed mode. there's a trap here that you've got to be very careful of because you're working on the two sides independently. I would suggest you lie the side that you've just completed down and then build your second side pointing at it. So see, I've done that, gone, yep, beauty, that's exactly what I want, because it could be pretty easy to flip this over and to build it that way and end up with two halves of the halo pointing the same way. In actual fact, it would probably work because you just turn them around, but in terms of just watching out, make sure that you've got the thing pointing in the right direction when you build it. Okay, so the final pieces that you'll have as part of your halo look a bit like this. Oops. Okay, so these are the standard locking pieces, and so the idea is that they slide between the two tops of the halos. You've got depth guides there that basically allow the whole thing to lock together, and then these small teeth go down through the top of these, right, and hold the whole thing together. So if you try and pull it apart, it won't come. Okay, so the idea is one of these goes in between the two parts of the halo, and then the other one goes on top. So you'll see how that goes when we actually build it. So there's those, and they give you a standard width halo. These pieces here are the extension pieces, and we're going to put this together. I'm just going to quickly punch out the rest of those. Now there's 6 of those locking pieces I've grabbed there because that's all that you need. I think in the kit you actually get 8, so giving you a couple of spares. I actually think you probably only need to use probably 2, maybe 4 total, but you've got a few spares there. Okay, so with this piece here, this is the extension piece for the center of the halo, so it gives you an extra 15 centimeters of space. It's got 2 very small pegs. Try and get it so you can see it at either end. So there's one here, right, another one here, and they're designed to go into the guides. These pieces are designed to lock in here. Again, I'm going to use that old trick that we looked at before. We'll flip them over and use the cut side in. Okay, so you've got a small line here of 3mm square holes, therefore supports for the little bars that hold the halo light strip up. And the idea of this is it gives you a bit of glare protection, because if the halos are at your eye level or the LED lights are at your eye level without anything shielding them. They're actually quite bright, and so the idea is that this provides you with a little bit of shielding for that thing. And so you'll see those things lock in there like that, right? And then flip it over and do the same. Make sure you got it up the right way. And that then gives me my support section. So basically what you've got is this sits aside on the shelf, and then one day you go like, oh, I need to build a big model, so I want to extend my halo out. So you bring this out, extend your halo, and off you go. There will be a little bit of mucking around in that in terms of actually changing your light in and out, but it's not a huge amount of work, and then it gives you that ability to work in a larger space. For me, for my halo, these ones are going to be in place most of the time because it gives me the standard width halo. Okay, back in a minute. So I should have actually mentioned I've glued that together, which is bleeding obvious, but just in case. The other things you'll have on your sprues, you have these pieces here. Now these pegs basically slide through the halo, and I'll show you that when we in fact you've probably already seen that when I do the how do you use your halo video. So you've got a pile of those. Again, you'll have spares. You also have on these sprues here these pieces. Now these pieces actually belong to the support boxes. They're the brush supports that go in the side, so don't throw those away, okay? And then the final bit is the paintbrush boxes that sit on the front of the halo. Right, these are pretty straightforward. It's basically two short and two long pieces. Some more there. Right, basically glue around each of these and then fold them up, stick them on the base of the halo. Now hopefully you can see I've bought my newly constructed halo. Here's the side and the Euro Community side. I'm just going to put a bit of glue. Now for all those people who have been screaming at the camera saying, for goodness sake, fill your glue container up, I did do that while the brake was on. Okay, so basically fold these up. Now you can do this, you can do that in multiple steps rather than kind of do the acrobatics that I've just tried to pull there. That kind of has a 50-50 success rate, that acrobatics. Sometimes it goes, it doesn't work at all. Right, and then basically I'm just going to put that in on the side there like that. Now you can decide where you put them. Some people like to have them up the front, some people like to have them down the back. Doesn't really matter. Put them where you want. Some people don't put them on at all. It's up to you. Okay, so if I turn the halo over on its side, you'll see how that's sitting.